Hi, friends. Host Eric here, host of Talking with Famous People. And I'm here with the arch admin herself, Susie. And I want to talk to you today about something that Zach, NGP Zach, who's in Alaska, texted me. He talked about SI seeking fourth slot and being in the grips of. If you've not heard the expression, people sometimes talk about being in the grips of your fourth slot function. And what they mean by that is that when you are not functioning well as an ENTP or an ENFP, then your difficulties will express via SI. If you're an SI Dom and you're not doing well, if you're in a dark place or whatever, then your difficulties will express in terms of NE. Now, I remember hearing about this being in the grips of your fourth function early on, and I came to familiarize myself with it via the rhetorical work of one So Malicious. If you're not familiar with So Malicious, she's an ENTP woman who was an active YouTuber for a while, and I haven't really seen much out of her recently, but anyway, she accused me of being in the grips of my fourth function. She and I had some conflict, and it boiled down to she didn't like getting piowed a little bit, and she pathologized me. In other words, instead of dealing with what I was saying, she attacked my identity as an unhealthy manifestation of self. So, her modality for doing that was this in the grips of your fourth function thing. What do I think about this idea in general is I'm a little bit jury's out on it. At the same time, I do understand that when I'm not functioning well, it's because of a failure to address SI considerations or SI groundings or whatever. Um, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the cause of the difficulties. Now, I think there are some people who view SI, being in the groups of SI, as referring to fixating on the past, ideating about what could have been, in experiencing an unnecessary extension of periods of regret or shame or anxiety or things like that. And I can certainly understand that experience. I've been there where I've been spending too much time thinking about how the past could have been different, how I ought to have behaved differently, or about how much shame I feel about the past. And those are indeed negative expressions of self, but I don't think that they're, and they may be negative expressions of self that are particular to SI experience, SI users in general, but I don't think that they're specific to the fact that it's in my fourth function. And while it's true that I function least optimally when I'm provided the least amount of support in that area where I need the most support, namely introverted sensing, I don't think that's indicative of a phenomenon that deserves naming, like being in the grips of your fourth function, necessarily, unless I could see a pattern of this same sort of thing manifesting in various types and being distinct somehow from simply seeking and not receiving that which your fourth function indicates. So, if you look at an INTP, for example, like Susie here, she's got as her fourth function FE. To say that she was in the grips of her fourth function would mean that somehow her life difficulties, if she were experiencing them, linked back to a failure to attend to FE or an intentional or unintentional but willful application of bad FE or something like that. Um, and that just doesn't seem to make sense to me. It seems that when INTPs are having dark periods in general, it's because they're struggling with their polar SE and they're stuck in a place of indecision, endless deliberation without any particular NI directed or NI approved course presenting itself in front of them. Susie, what's your experience with difficult times and which functions are giving you the difficulties?
Most of them, actually.
Most of them, huh?
Yeah, many things can be difficult.
Do you feel as though when things are most difficult or when you're stuck in a rut, it's because you're stuck in an FE rut? Either you're not getting enough engagement from other people or you're persistently engaging
Mm,
badly with other people?
maybe I just don't want to deal with people.
Hmm. Well, it's certainly true that there's a strong correlation between my non optimal functioning and not wanting to deal with SI shit, to the extent that SI shit means keeping track of elements of schedule and self that have already been decided but need to be followed through on a consistent maintenance style basis. So if it's merely avoidance of the function that it correlates with non optimal functioning, then I would tend to agree with that. That if I avoid
Uh,
my fourth function, I tend to function non optimally overall. And I do tend to avoid it. But I don't know how much that ties into me being a 7. I tend to avoid shit as a default option to anything I don't like. Anything that sounds not fun, I just pretend that doesn't exist. I don't want to think about that. Sometimes it can cause strange realities to manifest. Avoiding finding things out. I don't want to find out. But what if it's a good thing you find out, Eric? Yeah, but what if it's a bad thing I find out? Good point, Eric. You just better stay ignorant. Risk avoidance. It's it's a big thing in life. Try not to avoid risks. Feeling not so scared by significance of everything. Anyway, so yeah, grips of SI may just be avoiding SI. It's true uh, we don't want to have to be responsible for our own fourth function stuff. I'd like to be, as I am now, in a relationship where the other party cares about my SI stuff. And if you feel as though SI is giving you trouble and you're an ENTP or an ENFP, the solution? Same solution as always. Duality. Deeply sensual.
what if you don't have it? What should you do then?
You should look inside you for some moisture. Find your moisture. Roll around in it a bit. And say, here, dual, 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 dual. Here, dual, 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 dual. And that's how you find your dual.
Hello, like, hello, FI Polar. Figure that shit out on your own. Good luck.
Yeah, that's the problem you got there, Zach. Is FI is not going to do you any good. You got to have SI is the only way to know thyself. To experience yourself as an animal human is critically important to being a whole ENTP. And you'll avoid that experience to the extent that you can because it makes you stop, slow down. You know, it makes the peaks less high and the valleys a lot less low. So anyway, that's my message to people who have extroverted intuition in the most sensual of slots, the dominant slot. If you experience extroverted intuition deep, deep inside of you, then you, like me, seek introverted sensing. So find your moisture and live it.
Find it in someone else.
You only get one chance to be really, really sexual.
One time only.
One life, though. One life's worth of sexuality. If you like sexual sensuality or sensual sexuality, then you're going to love moist duality. You're going to love it. Isn't that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is, Eric. That's so true. Thanks, Suzar. Suzar is my invisible friend. Okay.
Oh, so you have me, you have local Susie, and now Susar.
Suzar is not related to either Susie. She just has a similar sounding name. But she talks like, she's basically a cheerleader of sorts. She goes, you tell him, host Eric. I'm Suzar, and I believe everything you say. Thanks, Suzar. You're my biggest fan, Suzar. That's right. I sure am your biggest fan. I loves me some host Eric. Well, gosh, Cesar, that's very kind of you. All right, friends. Well, thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.